Did the baby get born while I was traveling? Despite having a funeral ahead, the son-in-law called in a carefree tone. Yes, the baby was born safely. Having not expected his mother-in-law to answer his daughter's phone, I heard a click of the tongue, and Dick, what is it? Put my wife on. I want to talk to her directly. Our daughter has passed away. What? Come to the funeral home right now? No kidding. That's a black joke. Laughs. The son-in-law laughed sarcastically, refusing to believe my words. Everything is your fault. You will definitely pay. I whispered softly and hung up the phone. I am Emily, 58 years old. Just a few days ago, I had a daughter who was turning 30. She now lies quietly inside a white coffin. Touching her now cold cheeks, calling out to her Catherine, she does not twitch at all. As I look at her face, which has become doll-like, recent events circulate through my mind. If only I had rushed to Catherine sooner at that time. Just thinking about it fills my chest with unbearable regret, and tears flow endlessly. 1 week ago, my daughter, living far away, called me with an anxious voice. Mom, what should I do? I'm starting to get contractions, and I'm so scared. It's your first childbirth. Of course, it's only natural to be worried. I called the hospital and they said to come in when the contractions are 10 minutes apart. I'm alone, and it feels so daunting. Isn't Tom working from home? And isn't your mother-in-law living with you? Despite knowing the expected delivery date, both her husband and mother-in-law, who had booked an overseas trip, left my daughter as she started having contractions. The midwife will handle the delivery. It'll be fine, they said and departed. I was chilled to the bone, wondering what kind of people they were. I told my daughter to go to the hospital by taxi if the pain got stronger. And I immediately jumped into the car. My cheerful daughter is becoming so weak. It is about a 3-hour drive from my place to where my daughter lives. But of course, I got caught in traffic, and it took me 5 hours to arrive. When I finally arrived at my daughter's home, it was already dark outside. Yet, the lights in the house were not on. Did she go to the hospital? Or, surely not. Shaking off the ominous premonition, I opened the front door to find my daughter collapsed there. When I rushed to hold her, I saw that her clothes were wet, and the floor was soaked from her water breaking. Moreover, seeing my daughter's face for the first time in a while, it was drastically emaciated for a pregnant woman in her last month. Panicking, I steadied my trembling hands and hastily called an ambulance. After arriving at the hospital and regaining consciousness, my daughter was deemed unable to give birth naturally and was taken to the operating room. Please, let both the child and my daughter be safe. I fervently continued to pray in front of the operating room. After a while, I heard a baby's cry, and the doctor who came out said, "She's a healthy girl." I was relieved and about to sigh when the doctor, who looked sternly, delivered unthinkable words. "Your daughter lost a lot of blood and has consumed a lot of energy. So we need to observe her for a while. Please be prepared for any possibilities." What? No. The daughter, exhausted, was wheeled from the operating room to her hospital room. Her hands were punctured with numerous 4 needles, and she was also wearing an oxygen mask. The joy of the birth of her child was fleeting, as we became solely concerned with Catherine's condition. To cheer us up, perhaps, the nurse let the daughter hold the newborn baby. Then, Catherine slightly opened her eyes, smiled, and with tears streaming down her face, whispered, "I'm so glad you were born safely." 2 days later, we were able to have a conversation with the daughter, who had regained a little energy. "I'm sorry for causing you trouble, Mom. As long as you and the baby are safe, that's all that matters." I asked Tom to let me go back to my parents' home for the delivery, but he refused. I thought he had at least canceled the trip, though. It's just too cruel to leave Catherine while she's in labor. "Yeah, I may not be able to protect the baby if things stay this way." With a resolved look, the daughter asked me to do something for her. After I accomplished what she requested on that day and reported back, Catherine closed her eyes with a relieved expression and fell back into sleep. I hope she recovers. Her complexion is so poor. I prayed desperately, time and again, but my wishes were not heard, and day by day, my daughter's condition worsened. I called my son-in-law several times during this period, but no matter how many times I tried, he never answered, nor the message. 3 days later, despite all medical efforts, my daughter passed away, leaving behind her newborn child. And I'm sorry for being such a failure of a daughter. Mom, please save the baby. She was not the kind of person to say such things. Catherine, I'm so sorry for not being able to get to you right away. My heart was overwhelmed by sorrow and agony upon losing my precious daughter. But I can't be shattered by grief alone. After that, I repeatedly tried to call my son-in-law to inform him of my daughter's death, but it never connected. In desperation, I went to my daughter's house to look up the phone number of the hotel where they were supposed to be staying. While searching for a travel itinerary or something similar, my daughter's diary appeared from a drawer. What is this? This is terrible. The diary contained a truth beyond my imagination. As I read on, I understood the true meaning behind Catherine's words when she called herself a failure of a daughter. My hands and heart trembled uncontrollably, and then I collapsed on the spot. I will never forgive the person who made her go through this. I'll make him regret it. Holding my daughter's diary close to my chest, I made that strong vow. A few days later, the son-in-law returned the call with a carefree voice. I'm back in Japan. The husband has returned. Was the baby born safely? Yes, the baby is full of life. This is Catherine's phone, right? The voice seems different. Yes, it's been a while, Tom. I am Catherine's mother. Oh, mother-in-law, huh? Tell me sooner. Quickly put Catherine on. I can't do that, because my daughter has passed away. What? It's because you left her alone when her labor pains started. Passed away? Are you joking? It's too heavy. The funeral will start soon. If you feel sorry for your daughter, come right now. I just told him the location of the funeral and hung up the phone immediately. Despite his repeated calls, I ignored them. I didn't want him to interrupt my farewell to my daughter. The funeral proceeded quietly when the time came. It must have been so painful to leave the baby behind. I'm sorry I didn't notice your suffering earlier, Catherine. tears were unstoppable, and no matter how much I wiped them away, they wouldn't stop. Next to me, I could tell my husband was trying hard not to cry, biting his lip and looking down. After the cremation was over, and as I was holding the small box with Catherine inside close to my chest, the son-in-law and his mother finally arrived. Observing the mournful faces of the attendees, they were stunned. What's more, they came straight from the airport. He was in an aloha shirt, and she was wearing a large straw hat and sunglasses. What's with those ridiculous outfits? Can't you at least wear morning attire? Well, we were told to hurry, so we had no choice. Before you rebut, apologize to your wife sincerely. Tom, when I thought he was going to break down in tears looking at the portrait, he snorted with a nasal laugh. I should be the one wanting an apology. Who's going to do the house chores now? Anyone can give birth. She was a hopeless wife. How could you say something so awful? I'm just being honest. Yes, that's right. As I clenched my fists tightly, the nails digging into my palms, I felt a rush of pain. My usually gentle husband's eyes were bloodshot, his face terrifying in a way I'd never seen. Yet Tom didn't seem to care. So, was the kid a girl after all? Yes, that's right. Damn. If she had at least birthed a boy, we could have had an heir. She was a failure of a wife even till the end. It was useless. I glared at him, suppressing the impulse to hit him right there. I don't need the kid. Raise it yourselves. We intended to from the start. Moreover, you and Catherine are divorced now. Divorced? I submitted the divorce papers as per Catherine's request. You wrote it yourself to threaten her, didn't you? Even though Catherine had endured so much harassment, believing that the child to be born needed a father. So she entrusted me with the divorce papers, saying that she could not save the child by herself. Catherine got the parental rights, so we, as a couple, take responsibility to raise the child. You submitted the papers without my permission. But, since Catherine is gone, it's natural for me to have parental rights. I'll raise the child, so send me child support. Do you even understand what you're saying? Yeah, hand over the kid. In return for looking after them for free, you send money. How terrible. We've already applied to be the minor's legal guardian. So you're the one who has to pay child support. You're greedier than I thought. But Catherine had a hefty life insurance policy, so I'll pay around $100,000. I was petrified by my son-in-law's words. His way of speaking sounded as if Catherine's departure was already planned. Could it be that everything went perfectly as planned? Catherine served our purpose too? So, you deliberately left my daughter behind. Well, yay. I nearly collapsed from the shock, but my husband quickly supported me. He was shaking his shoulders, whispering, I can't believe it. The relatives around us began to murmur and exchange glances. When Catherine informed her mother-in-law that the baby was a girl, she was yelled at. You're a useless daughter-in-law if you can't give birth to a boy. Her husband spat at her. You're a failure and utterly worthless woman. You disgust me. I was so sad, but I thought they would adore the baby once she was born, so I had to endure. I began to read my daughter's diary, which I had pulled out of my bag. Under the scorching midsummer sun, I was forced by my mother-in-law to go shopping, When I came back home, I didn't get a break. I was ordered to pull weeds in the garden. After that, one chore after another was demanded. And if she was not satisfied with the dinner I made, it was often thrown out. And I had to redo it. What should I do? The reason why my heavily pregnant daughter was so worn out was all written in this diary. Bringing out such things without permission, you're like a thief. Moreover, you deliberately made sure we couldn't contact her, didn't you? My daughter wanted to return to her parents' home for the birth, at least. How lonely and hopeless she must have felt, being forced to give up, being neglected. Like I care about that. They showed no signs of remorse. It seemed like they didn't feel the gravity of their sins. Enough is enough, echoed my husband's shout. Not only our anger, but also the anger of the relatives knew no bounds. And they were made to apologize on the spot. He finally changed his attitude, pleading as if he had turned over a new leaf when he noticed his situation. All right, I get it. Just give me a break. This isn't the end of it. The president of the company you work for will know what you did to our daughter. And you'll likely be fired. What? Why? The president and I were classmates. The world is small, you see. Not only that, the neighbors know about it too. When I went to my daughter's house, a worried neighbor spoke to us. So I informed them that Catherine had passed away and explained the circumstances up to now. Feel the weight of the sin you've committed and live in remorse for the rest of your life. You don't have to go that far. I had one more crucial piece of information to give to the despondent couple. Also, I am the beneficiary of my daughter's insurance money. What? Are you serious? Tom and his mother looked at each other with shocked expressions. A piece of paper was sandwiched in my daughter's diary. It was a life insurance form. Without telling anyone, my daughter had changed the beneficiary to me. All your plans have fallen apart. That must be very disappointing for you, isn't it? No way. I was counting on that money. And another thing. We've already filed a complaint with the police for abandoning your duty to protect. Adding the crime of abandoning my daughter with the intention of claiming her life insurance will surely complicate things for you. The police. Please spare me from that. Please forgive me. Tom and his mother seemed now pale, bowed deeply, rubbing their heads on the floor, but I had no intention of forgiving them. I will never forgive you. Thoroughly taste the hell on this earth. Eventually, a police car that someone from the relatives had called arrived. As they were taken away, the pathetically wailing two were sent off by everyone present with cold stares. Afterwards, we hired a lawyer and demanded child support from Tom and his mother. We hoped that the two who drove my daughter to death would be severely punished, regardless of what crime they commit, even if they get out of prison. With Tom being fired and his mother being pointed at by the neighbors, that means their peaceful life like before will never come back. We have taken in the baby that my daughter gave birth to and lived together. The insurance money that was deposited is planned to be used entirely for the baby's living expenses. The sorrow of losing my daughter will not disappear. There are many moments when I am saved by this child's smile. From now on, we will pour love and raise this child. Even for the part of my daughter who could not fulfill her feelings,